Hey y'all, it's Jonathan. I am back with another video. I know it's been some months since you've seen my face, but I have been active on a few other social media sites, so I haven't completely disappeared, but I do want to get back into making some book content, and I could not end the year 2024 without talking about some of the books that I am actually looking forward to in 2025. So if you are interested in hearing about the books that I'm excited for that are coming out next year, keep on watching and let's get right into this. So, if you don't know, if you're new to the channel, I'm Jonathan. I am a full-time teacher and a part-time bookseller, and one of the perks of bookselling is that we do receive a lot of advanced review copies of books, and so I pick them up from time to time, and there have been a lot of 2025 releases that I have picked up and that I'm really looking forward to. And so every single book on this list is a book that I do have an arc for, and so I have started reading some of them. I have finished one already, and so I'm really excited about these books. These are all books by Black authors, and a good chunk of them are by Black queer authors, so let's get into this. So I'm going to go in order of release date to kind of kick off the month of January. This book comes out January 28th, 2025, and this is actually the sequel to Don't Cry For Me by Dr. Daniel Black. It's called Isaac's Song. And if you have read Don't Cry For Me, you know that that book was a lot. That book really was a life-changing moment for me this year, picking it up after having it recommended so many times. And I think that Don't Cry For Me is a must-read, especially for Black men. I don't want to give any Don't Cry For Me spoilers, but Isaac's Song is kind of a follow-up to Don't Cry For Me. So I definitely would suggest checking out Don't Cry For Me. I've already started Isaac's Song, and I think that it would help you to understand what's going on in this a little bit more. But Isaac is at a crossroads in his young life. Growing up in Missouri, the son of a caustic, hard-driving father, he was conditioned to suppress his artistic pursuits and physical desires, notions that didn't align with a traditional view of masculinity. But now, in late 80s Chicago, Isaac has finally carved out a life of his own. He is sensitive and tender-hearted and has built up the courage to seek out a community. Yet, just as he begins to embrace who he is, two social catalysts, the AIDS crisis and Rodney King's attack, collectively extinguish his hard-earned joy. At a therapist's encouragement, Isaac begins to write his story. In the process, he taps into a creative energy that will send him on a journey back to his family, his ancestral home in Arkansas, and the inherited trauma of the nation's dark past. But a surprise discovery will either unlock the truths he's seeking or threaten to derail the life he's fought so hard to claim. I'm really excited for this one because of the fact that Don't Cry For Me did have such a huge impact on me. My book club also read it and everybody loved it. And so I'm looking forward to Isaac's Song, and there may be a little bit of surprise related to this book towards the beginning of next year. So definitely would encourage you on January 28th to pick up Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. And that same day, Imani Perry's latest book, Black and Blue, How a Color Tells the Story of My People, comes out. And Imani Perry is another author that I absolutely love. Imani Perry's biography of Lorraine Hansberry, Looking for Lorraine, was absolutely phenomenal, and I read that a couple of years ago. In addition to that, South to America. And so this is another nonfiction read, and it chronicles the role of the color blue in Black history and culture. So throughout history, the concept of Blackness has been remarkably intertwined with another color, blue. In daily life, it is evoked in countless ways, from the hopefulness of blue skies to the deep melancholy of Louis Armstrong's question, "What did I do to be so black and blue?" In this book, celebrated author Imani Perry uses the world's favorite color as a springboard for a riveting emotional, cultural, and spiritual journey, an examination of race and Blackness that transcends politics or ideology. And so I love books like this that take on like a concept like that. And I haven't been in my nonfiction bag in the way that I want to. And so I'm looking forward to having some really, really great nonfiction reads this upcoming year. I'm excited. I'm excited. So this also comes out January 28th. The next book is also a nonfiction read. And I will say a good chunk of the books that I'm talking about, I have read other works from the author, and Eva Ewing is another author that I'm super, super excited to read more from her. This title is Original Sins, The Miseducation of Black and Native Children and the Construction of American Racism, and this comes out on February 11th. It says, if all children could just get an education, the logic goes, they would have the same opportunities later in life. But this historical tour de force makes it clear that the opposite is true. The educational system has played an instrumental role in creating racial hierarchies, preparing children to expect unequal treatment throughout their lives. In Original Sins, Ewing demonstrates that schools were designed to propagate the idea of white intellectual superiority, to civilize Native students, and to prepare Black students for menial labor. Schools were not an afterthought for the Founding Fathers. They were envisioned by Thomas Jefferson to fortify the country's racial hierarchy. And while those dynamics are less overt now than they were in centuries past, Ewing shows that they persist in a curriculum that continues to minimize the horrors of American history. Ewing argues that the most insidious aspects of the system are under the radar: standardized testing, tracking, school discipline, and access to resources. By demonstrating that it's in the DNA of American schools to serve as an effective and under-acknowledged mechanism maintaining inequality in this country today, Ewing makes the case that there should be a profound reevaluation of what schools are supposed to do and for whom. So, as an educator, I know that this is going to be a wild ride, and this is going to be a really, really impactful read for me. I previously had read Ghosts in the Schoolyard by Eva Ewing, and that talked about Chicago public schools. And there were so many there was so much insight that Eva Ewing was able to offer in that particular novel. And I would encourage all educators, all people that work in education, that work with children, to read that book. And so I think that this kind of continues on with that. And I love Eva Ewing's work, including her fictional work. She does have a middle grade read that I think is really, really great for young children. And so the way that she's about to dive into the educational system and racism within education, and sort of tackling the idea that, like, what are schools actually for? And who are they supposed to serve? What is education supposed to do? I think that is something that we really need right now, especially when the educational system is under attack, and with this new administration, what is going to happen with the education within this country. So I'm really excited to check this out and learn more. And I already looked at how many citations are in this book, and so I know that it's well researched. I know that it's going to be a solid scholarly work. So yeah, I'm just excited to learn. All right, so the next book is When the Harvest Comes by Den Michelle Norris. I am really excited to see how people react to this book once it comes out. I already read this. I finished it a couple of months ago, and I think that I read this while on the phone with my best friend. Like, I flew through this entire book one night, and I was audibly screaming because this is a wild ride. And I will do like a full review of this closer to the release date. I have lots of questions. I have lots of thoughts. But yes, I'll just tell y'all what it's about. So, the venerated Reverend Dr. John Freeman did not raise his son, Davis, to be touched by any man, let alone a white man. He did not raise his son to whisper that man's name with tenderness. But on the eve of his wedding, all Davis can think about is how beautiful he wants to look when he meets his beloved Everett at the altar. Never mind that his mother, who died decades before, and his father, whose anger drove Davis to flee from their home in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, for a freer life in New York City, won't be there to walk him down the aisle. All Davis needs to be happy in this life is Everett, his new family, and his burgeoning career as an acclaimed violinist. When Davis learns during the wedding reception that his father has been in a terrible car accident, years of childhood trauma and unspoken emotion resurface. David must revisit everything that went wrong between them risking his fledgling marriage along the way. In resplendent prose, Dan Michelle Morris, When the Harvest Come, reveals the pain of inheritance and the heroic power of love, reminding us that in the end, we are more than the men who came before us. I think that it's interesting. It was interesting reading this after having read Don't Cry for Me, because I think that there's definitely this, I don't want to call it a trend, but I think that a lot more Black writers are beginning to explore the relationships between queer Black men and their fathers, and just Black men and their fathers in general, in a way that I have not seen before. I think that, throughout literary history, especially Black literary history, we have seen, the stories like Go Tell It on the Mountain. But I think that even with Baldwin, when he was kind of exploring that sort of idea of like that father-son relationship and, the tension that comes, especially, with the underlying theme of like queerness within Go Tell It on the Mountain, it's like there still is not an in-depth analysis of why or the perspective of the father in that way, or how the father feels about their son's queerness on a deeper level. I think that When the Harvest Comes kind of follows in that tradition, where you do see this analysis of Black fatherhood. And so I love this particularly because I saw the blurbs, and Deisha Phil, y'all, who wrote The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, and Tori Peters, the author of Detransition Baby, which is also one of my favorite books of like the past like 5 years. Both did blurbs on the back of this book. And Dan Michelle Morris is also Black and trans. And the release date is April 15th for When the Harvest Comes. So I'm really, really excited about this next one, The Fantasies of Future Things. I have not gotten to start reading it yet, but the premise is interesting. So this is by Doug Jones, and the blurb says that it's reminiscent of Moonlight, okay? So daily interactions with Jacob and Daniel are a powder keg of sexual tension and uncertainty. A recent Morehouse graduate and Brooklyn transplant, Jacob fears that accepting the truth of his sexuality will disappoint the hopes his parents have for him to lead a respectable life. Grieving the death of his mother while searching for answers about a father he has never known, Daniel, an Atlanta native, has resigned himself to the reality that men who love men don't have happy endings. When Jacob meets Sherman, a social worker fighting for one of the families being displaced by the project, he must decide if rejecting security is worth the risk of embracing the unknown. In the midst of navigating his grief and volatile relationship with Jacob, Daniel learns of his father's identity. Though meeting his father could provide Daniel with the closure he has always sought, the distance between what Daniel wants and what he's willing to do for it remain a question only he can answer. And so this sounds juicy. I don't know, it sounds so good. And what I'm really enjoying seeing about like Black queer writers is that the books are getting a lot deeper. It's not just like a very simple DL storyline. There's so much range in what Black queer authors are able to write. And so I also appreciate a book where it's two Black men loving each other and figuring out, navigating a relationship, even with the ups and downs. It doesn't always have to be just a super light romance. So I'm excited to check this out. I am very, very excited to check this out. And that comes out, The Fantasies of Future Things comes out April 22nd. All right. And then the last book that I'm very, very excited about comes out June 3rd, 2025, and it is called Great Black Hope by Rob Franklin. And it says, an arrest for cocaine possession at the end of a sweltering New York summer leaves Smith, a queer Black Stanford graduate, in a state of turmoil. Pulled into the court system and mandated treatment, he finds himself in an absurd but dangerous situation. His class protects him, but his race does not. It's just weeks after the shocking death of Smith's beloved friend, Elle, the daughter of a famous soul singer, and he's still reeling from the tabloid spectacle, as well as lingering questions of what really happened the night she died. He flees to his hometown of Atlanta, only to come up against the weight of expectations from his family of doctors, lawyers, and college presidents. When Smith returns to New York, it's not long before he begins to lose himself to his old life, drawn back into the city's underworld where his search for answers may end up costing him his freedom and his future. Great Black Hope is a propulsive, glittering story about what it means to exist between worlds, to be upwardly mobile, yet spiraling downward, and how to find a way back to hope. This sounds juicy. It sounds like it has like some mystery elements to it, a little bit of like a crime fiction element. And so I don't know, like there's just so much good stuff that's about to be coming out in this upcoming year. Of course, I'm going to try to get to all of these in addition to everything else that is coming out next year if I've got the time. And you will see reviews hopefully on the channel or even over on TikTok, where I'm trying to do a little bit more content, posting some more stuff on Instagram, but the links to all of that stuff is in the description box below. So I hope that y'all are looking forward to this upcoming year. I'm definitely hoping that it is going to be an even better year than this year with all of its ups and downs. And I'm just excited for all the literature that's going to be coming out. So let me know what you're excited about. Are there any titles that I should be looking forward to reading that I didn't include in this list? Anything you've heard about? If you're an author and you want me to check out your book, definitely drop that down in the comment section. I'm looking forward to doing more videos and more reviews, but that's it for this video. So I'll catch y'all in the next one, and always remember that you are loved.